Time to get back to work on the CB750. Welcome to Hacko Week. So here is the plan. Gonna get the wheels on the frame and start truing up the wheels. Before I do that, I want to mount the shocks, and I got to find all the parts for the wheels, get the bearings in the wheels, find all the axle bolts, maybe get the forks together. That all depends if I have all the parts that go on the forks. I've got to dig through my boxes and find that out. But we're going to start out with the rear wheel. First thing we're going to do is get shocks on here to hold the swinging arm in place. And then we'll put the wheel on and start tensioning the spokes and truing up this wheel. So here's all the parts breakdown on the rear wheel, and I've got to find all of these parts somewhere in all that stuff I've got. I've got the bearings, I found those. They're All Balls Racing bearing kit, but I've got to find things like this spacer assembly right here, a few of these other bits, and figure out just where it all is and then get it all together the proper way. This bike is really torn apart, so it's going to take some time to build this up. Remember this box? It's the box with all the parts in it that have been plated. I've got the manual here with my little picture, and now it's time to dig through all these bags again. Lots of fun when you're following up behind someone else that tore something apart, trying to find all that crap it takes to put it back together. This is going to be some tricky stuff. This bag, this looks like it could be some stuff I need. Right there, there's a spacer. Let's see, what do they call that? Just a rear wheel side collar. Well, that looks like something I need right there. Let's see, that one does as well, as is that one. So let's just start digging all this stuff out, one piece at a time, and eventually, I hope, I'm going to find everything I need and we can get this put together. Let's just keep going. It's looking like I've got some duplicate stuff here. There's a lot of stuff that's in duplicate. I think this guy maybe had some stuff from another bike. Okay, that looks like it's the rear wheel bolt. Guess it never got plated. That's okay, I can clean that up. Oh, there's one more right there that I know I have. That guy. Okay. This is so much fun. All right, let's check out the bearings here. I wish I had more horizontal workspace in here, but I don't. That's just how it is. Too bad, so sad. Tough titty, said the kitty. But anyway, I'm doing the best I can with what I got, which will be the floor. It kind of makes it tough, but whatever. We'll get there, we will get there. Let's see. That's one of my bearings right there. There it goes. I think we got it. Got the wheel flipped over now. And what I'm doing is unscrewing the rear wheel bearing and retainer. Bearing goes in there. That's the spacer that goes between the bearings. That's got to drop in next, I believe. And it just fits in there, and these little ears that are on here keep it lined up and in the center. Alright, so this has to go in next. That's all nice and clean in there. Pretty tight fit. Hey, it just occurred to me that I can use my bearing tool here to drive this in, the one that I bought for the BMW bearing replacement jobby, because it's about the right size, and I can use that to drive this in. I want to stop before I drive this all the way in. I don't want to seat the outer part of this all the way. The reason for that is it will side load the bearings. I don't want to side load the bearings. I want this to be able to rotate. You can reach in here and wiggle around the inner spacer, and it should be just snug to the inner spacer. Not too tight. So you can still feel a tiny bit of play. So what I'll do is just give it a couple of taps around the perimeter, just ever so slightly. And then check it again. Make sure everything rotates okay. And that spacer in there should be just snug between the two bearings. No preload on a ball bearing. Bad news. What happens is it'll offset the ball in the race, and then you'll get premature wear. So I'm happy with that. That's just about right. I think it's not going to wiggle around any. So once we've got that set and everything rotates okay, let's check both sides. Yep. Now over on this side I can wiggle it. So that tells me I need to maybe go just a little bit further in. Let's give it a couple more taps. And check it again, because this side will move a little easier than the other side did. That's just about right there. I can move it, but the inner spacer doesn't wiggle around anymore. Okay, so now that we've got that all set just right, now we'll put the retainer ring in. We're going to tighten that down where it's just snug. You don't want to over tighten it because you're going to push the bearing in further and preload it. That's not what we want to do. So I'm just going to take it up to where it's just a little snug. That's it. That's all we need right there. Just good and snug. Okay. For now, I am not going to do the little punch thing around here to lock it in place just yet. I'm going to leave everything loose until I put it on, spin the wheel, make sure everything's okay. Alright, now we can go ahead and get the bearing in the final drive flange. Okay, here's the drive flange. This just took me about 20 minutes to find this and the retainer for the bearing that goes in here. So the dampers here, the rubber dampers, these look like they're from a CB750F. And I've got a K, so I'm going to have to buy new dampers to go in here. I can't find them anywhere. I look everywhere. And there's an O-ring missing that goes around here. We're just going to skip the wheel dampers for now. I've got the drive flange cleaned up. We need to put the bearing in the drive flange. That would be this big one right here. And then on the back, this spacer goes in there. And then we do that, and then this retainer goes on, and the wheel seal goes inside the retainer. So let's get this bearing put into the drive flange next. Check from the back side, and I can see, gotta go a little bit more. And that sounds like it's all the way home. Yep. Let's get the seal in here. It goes in just like that. And once again, I'll use one of these guys to punch that in there. I think I've got one the right size. Let's see here. That one's close. Okay, that's in all the way. I get a little bit of grease on the inside of it. I'm going to put a little bit on the back side too, around that little spring. There's a little spring in here that holds the seal tight around the spacer in here. I like to put a little bit of grease on the back because it just ensures that that spring's not going to pop out. It's a trick I learned from our mechanic I used to work with. We'll just set this on here for the moment. And it's going to be the same thing on this bearing right here as far as this tension goes, because there's a spacer that goes in the back of here that will insert into the bearing, and then the whole thing drops down onto here. This spacer pushes against here, pushes against the inner spacer, and then the axle nut squeezes everything together nice and tight. Axle bolt, I mean. So there's that. And then this one goes in to retain the bearing. The threads on this are a little bit messed up from the punch marks right here, but I should still be able to get it in there okay. I'm going to put just a dab of grease on the threads just to help things out a little bit and just make sure I don't gall the metal to metal when I run it in there. Somewhere out there in the world there's an adjustable spanner to go across these holes. You can also use needle nose pliers if you spread them apart far enough to help you screw that in. Yeah, that went in okay. Okay, just snug for now. Get a little bit of grease off from there. Now we've got a spacer that drops in here, and this is where the wheel seal seals against, is this spacer. Make sure there's no burrs on it or anything. We'll drop that in. And we're good to go there. And let's see, over on the other side there's going to be the whole brake hub goes on here, and then this wheel spacer will go on after the brake hub goes into place. Let's get the rear brake shoe holder in place. Drop that on there. Let's see if we can get a rear shock mounted on here. I may upgrade these shocks. They're, I don't know, they look a little cheap, but maybe we can just get them on there temporary, just to hold the swinging arm in place if nothing else. And got to find the bolts, of course. Don't know where they are, don't know where any of the stuff is till I need it, and then I got to go digging for it in the box. So let's see if we can find a bolt for that. Well, I found a bolt that fits. Whether or not it's the bolt is another issue, but this is all temporary, as a lot of things along the way here are going to be, because as I do this and I look for the bolt, you know, it's kind of like I don't even know what I'm looking for. I don't know what was in there originally. So if I had torn this bike down myself, it would be so much easier, because I'm really good at remembering what things looked like and where they went. And also when I do it, I tend to put it in little boxes and things like that, and cups, and keep it separate. But this guy plated everything, so it all went into one big bag, and that was that. Now we're ready to get the rear wheel on here. Okay, here we go. Let's get this up here and get the bolt started through here first. Got the spacer over here to squeeze in. Spin a nut on there. We're just going to give this nut a little snug up. Okay, here we go. As you can see, it's wobbling all over the place, up and down. And the first thing we're going to do is just take every one of these spoke nuts. We'll take a flat blade screwdriver and just take them to where they bottom out against the actual spoke length. Alright, in the interest of getting this done a little bit faster, I've got a flat bit in here. And oh, look at that, I already see I'm missing one of my spoke nuts. So it's got to be around somewhere, and I really need it in there before I go any further. Got to find that now. Well, I can't find the missing spoke nut. Not surprising, one's missing, and that pretty much brings everything to a screeching friggin' halt. This is going to be one of the most challenging builds I have ever done. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and just snug up all the rest so you get the general idea of what happens when you do this. It's going to bring the wheel into the proper roundness, and then we're going to tension it from there, but not until I get that last spoke nut. So I've got to jump online and order up some more stuff. I got to find those, I got to find the cushions that go in here, and a few other items. So going to be shopping online, getting more parts. But you know what? I've had a few donations this week that really helped out. Thank you very much to the people who did that. A couple of them were quite generous, so thanks. Okay, let's just keep going here. Really wish the previous owner would have spun these on a little bit further. I wouldn't be missing any. Well, you can see it's still out around a bit, but this is just the first stage of pre-tensioning the wheel. I really need to get the proper size spoke wrench. I gotta buy some more spoke nipples. I can't take one off the front wheel because it's different size spokes, but we'll get there. So this week I'll be busy ordering up some stuff online. We got the rear wheel together, at least as far as the bearings go. Next week we'll move on to the front wheel. Even if I can't put the forks together, I can true it up. I'll figure out a way to do that. But we're moving along. It's going to take a while. So there you go. That about wraps it up for this week. So if you want to donate, be sure to check the link down below there in the video description. Help out any way you can, and we'll keep moving along on this build. Thanks for watching, and until next time. Because that needs to float a little bit because the